Wire live on Ealing Oracle Radio and People's Internet Radio. And this is, in fact, another pre-recorded interview, and it is the 18th of the 5th, 2019, Eurovision Day or FA Cup final day for many, many people. This is going to go out on my show on the 22nd of May, Wednesday the 22nd, my next show, and it is with the wonderful, inimitable Professor George Lees. George, are you with me?
Yeah, Sean, it's a pleasure again, and thank you for having the capacity to stay with it. It's a very, very complicated story, and I still cannot get the complete resolution of that Shin story. But you remember how you and John and everybody in our team were debating why would Tony Blair have become a Catholic and vice versa, right through the discussion. All they want to become are billionaires, and we've now got the evidence for that. The world's most powerful people are going to be profiled in the second half of this video. That is the communists of China. Yeah, and you know how futile and facile those labels are. All of them are billionaires at their people's expense, and that's going to come out in second half today. First, I want to dub on global Freemasonry, and the chief master mason that tried to section me was in this hotel that I'm living in last night, drinking happily with the punters that are the Masons. His name is Basil Switzer. That's the second generation of chief master masons, and he was the doctor that tried to section me and murder me in the NHS with Dr. Ian Fingland. So the start of this story on global masonry is the depth of the vaults and the human condition, alias the Geneva Conventions. Yeah, because all of it, like the most ancient religious movement that is archived, is the Benedictine missions to the Holy Lands. Do you get it? Which is why Donald's allowing them to commemorate the Eurovision Song Contest in Tel Aviv, where the Bible was written by Arius Piso, and then he wrote the Quran there for divide and conquer reasons.
So George, is there something very specific about this date and this anniversary and the fact that it's in Tel Aviv? Is there something incredible happening?
No, it's all just the laugh for them as the monarchs and the money lenders that this is us taking over the banks. You remember the Waterloo song and what that celebrates?
From Abba, yeah.
Yeah, that is the Waterloo and the Bank of England Steel by Nathan Mayer Rothschild and his brothers. Four of them become the 5 arrows, and it's all now history. Okay, so in Paris on November 20th, 1815, Switzerland was guaranteed neutrality by France, Austria, Great Britain, Portugal, Sweden and Russia. Swiss borders since that date have remained stable. London began a 24-year process of taking over 14 of the 15 Swiss Freemasonic lodges and recertifying them under the English Grand Lodge named Obedience below. The gold reserves of every nation Hitler conquered, except those of France, were shipped to the Bank of International Settlements in Basel. That is the Basil Switzer cover, and Basil Switzer is a chief master mason. Yeah, and all of them are obliged to die for the royals. But this one's quite happy to come and gloat that he's still at liberty after trying to murder me in the NHS. That's Dr. in inverted commas Basil Switzer, chief master mason, drinking in the pub that I'm living in. Yeah, with no investigations by law enforcement, because all of them are obligated to be in the Masons too. Okay.
Have you reported it, George? If you report it, then obviously they're going to have to...
Yeah, I have. I've reported it formally to the Northumbrian Police in Berwick, and that is the whole of the director numbers for Prince Charles on the Bank of International Settlements, and all of the massive steel that is for Lord Jacob Rothschild. Yeah, there's the pictures of trading with the enemy in wartime, and there is the swastika that is the icon for the global Freemasons for 3,000 years, with the title of the book being Trading with the Enemy. Okay, I'll just read you the slide stories on my webpage. That's Prof. George Lee's Global Economic Carnage, War Profiteering. There's the funders for all sides slide. Kings hired Mayor Amschel Rothschild, 1744 to 1812. Remember, the Shin ended in 1714 when the German royals stole Britain. Yeah, a Jewish financial something. Your picture's in the way again. Terribly. Yeah. I've just got it out of the way. So, Kings hired Mayor Amschel Rothschild, 1744 to 1812, a Jewish financial wizard from Frankfurt, Germany, to transport their gold to safe havens. Mayor Rothschild got his start in banking by charging European royal commissions for transferring their gold to safe havens during the Napoleonic Wars. Waterloo, how does it feel to have won the war? And that is the Eurovision Song Contest covers. They're now taking it to Israel. Of the five brothers, Nathan Rothschild reaped the most from this scheme. Just prior to Napoleon's defeat at Waterloo in blood red in 1815, the wealth of his bank in London stood at 3 million. 5 years later, his holdings amounted to 7.5 billion. That's 1815. Can you see the need to celebrate Eurovision? By the beginning of the 1900s, the wealth of the House of Rothschild had grown to such proportions that it was estimated that the Rothschilds controlled half of all of the wealth on the earth.
That's just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, an immense ring of power and the debtor economy perpetually on the rise. Yeah, do you get the apologies from every chancellor we've ever had? Right then, so let me just scan them. For some reason it won't scan. An immense ring of power and the debtor economy perpetually on the rise. Some believe that the Kabbalah is older than this, and Israel's economy is AAA plus rated on Bloomberg this very morning. Now you have to buy the Trojan horse, then the sexual attention of the invading army, but orphaned children are traded freely. And that is a picture of the owner of the Bank of International Settlements, Prince Charles, with his mate Jimmy Savile. And there's the Trojan horse. Do you get it now?
Yeah.
And that's...
And do you think they're using that for child trafficking? Yeah.
No, it's all just so that they can take over the world's wealth and the issuance of money, and they've done it, and it started in 1815.
Yeah, it's all a money grind.
And there's the Bilderbergs fighting for the one true God, with the letter L in the middle, which makes it the true gold. Yeah, that is the wishes of the Rothschild family to be the gods. That's gold, oil, and diamonds. Quite funny, really, Hannah, and your family, isn't it?
I thought it was gold, oil, and drugs.
No, diamonds. De Beers in the syndicate, third husband of Jackie O.
Right.
Yeah, you know him, Templesman?
The third
husband of Jackie Onassis was De Beers diamonds magnate.
Oh, right, okay.
And there is the Jewish connection, and there is the high priests of Israel, and that is what Lord Jacob Rothschild became several years after he had become the same in Austria. They own the whole world and all of its issuance of money. There's the golden garments of the Cohen Gadol Shemot, 28,442, and there are all the Israeli and Jewish icons for the one true chosen ones that diaspora all around the world with Christian crosses on their chests, like you, spreading Christianity by violence, torture, and bloodshed. And there is the keep out notice with a picture of a fanny and an arse, and that is the chastity belt for the women that you have to leave at home during the crusade.
Right.
Okay? And you now know, Sean, as one of the world's leading philosophers, what does Abba mean in biblical terms?
You're going to have to remind me. So,
Father God.
Father God.
You're
Yeah.
really quite dangerous. That's Father God, Arius Piso. And the other one gets ignored all of the time, and that's why he or she or they create the volcanoes, the earthquakes, the landslides, the tsunamis, and everything that allows the royals to become charitable profiteers for their sins. There's Masonic Lodge St. Olaus to the White Leopard with the massive Trojan horse that was who was the man that murdered the socialist trainees in Norway? It's the cover for the Obama's monetary regime, Obamacare. So that is, what was the name of the?
I don't know what his name is off the top of my head.
Yeah, so he becomes the boss that launched Obamacare, and that is all the massive Trojan horses right through the story. So parliamentary building of Norway, building in Oslo, and there's a picture of the Norwegian king that was Quisling, shaking hands with Adolf Hitler Rothschild, and that is the Abba singers. Yeah, they were abused by the Nazis in the war. So the name of the terror diversion or Trojan horse was Breivik, and that becomes Donald Berwick in Obamacare in the massive global scams that we're going to tell you about in the second half, because Obama's a billionaire and all of them that become presidents become that. Same for the communists in China. So there is Obama shaking hands with Chavez. Yeah, do you get the Chavs now? Quite a comprehensive profiling. There is Hitler Youth 1941, Joseph Ratzinger, still on the Committee of 300. Yeah, with Pope Francis, with all of those doubts. Yeah, and they're now beginning to proclaim that they want the numbers down and they want to take positive action. Remember that the Vatican, you've heard the Rothschild story and their extreme wealth. The Vatican is still the biggest landowner on the whole globe. Mason's monopoly on global banking and regulations. Sources from older literature only. Understand now why books are burned by the SS on all sides in a global war. And there is the Trading with the Enemy books, the Nazi American money plot, 1933. And that, I believe, is also part of what the gods regard as the Shin. Because in every great conflict, both sides send teams to become double agents right through the war, and those are the famous families in every war. The most famous names of the lot are Worcester, yeah, Bush, Harriman, yeah, Tyson, and all of them are trading with their cousins on the other side of the world to try and get rid of the ordinary people that they call the hungry eaters, Princess Anne. Trading with the Enemy, the Nazi American money plot, 1933. Inside the Brotherhood, explosive secrets of the Freemasons, and there are the books burning. That's a book by Martin Short. This is an investigation of Freemasonry which studies such areas as Freemasonry's religious and occult elements, the police and the underworld armed forces and charities. I think I told you the other day that when I went to my hometown, they are training with new loaded pistols. And it's a training exercise in the town square of my hometown. There's a factual history of Freemasons and banking by the person who's telling these stories. That he's nicknamed Bit Rebel, and that I believe is the launch of the Bitcoin stories, because he is an activist like me and you. Yeah, and goodness knows what his real ID is. This paper was created to show the massive systemic corruption that is deeply embedded in American and international politics. All of the people stated in these papers to be Masons are actual Masons, and nothing in this paper is contrived. Although it may seem pretty unbelievable when you read it, it's all factual history, and truth can be double-checked in many places in order to verify the authenticity of the facts. So it says the illustrations have been inserted by me, so let's stay with them. There is Hanoverians create the web. The Glorious Revolution not only made possible the chartering of the Bank of England, from Frankfurt you see, which was to become the world's most influential central bank. Mark Carney was supposed to have resigned in May of 2018. He's still there. Yeah.
Why should he have resigned?
Because that is the term of his office, was 8 years, and that is way back to the Leveson inquiry, and all of them just spout out bullshit, and Rupert Murdoch releases it to the public. Okay, so the Bank of England, which was to become the world's most influential central bank, it also opened the door for the subsequent usurping of the English crown by the Illuminati, remember that name for the second half, in 1714, when George I, Duke of Hanover, ascended to the throne of England. Since that date, the English monarchy has been prominent in the world machinations, a strategic triumph, but an unprecedented human calamity of the Freemasonic movement. Then we've got another bullet point, Sedition Act 1798. In effect, this act banned all secret societies except Freemasons. From 1782 to 1790, the Grand Master of England was His Royal Highness Henry Frederick, Duke of Cumberland. That's the massacre at Culloden, and that is the joke for them that we are now killing the gods. Odin was culled. The rest is history. Because of Nathan Rothschild's financial acumen, London became the banking headquarters of the House of Rothschild, all male. Wait for this one. To this day, no Englishman has ever worked for N.M. Rothschild and Sons at St. Swithin's Lane unless first proving his ability to keep secrets by joining English Freemasonry. Yeah, absolutely sinister. Yeah,
actually putting people in positions of power, like in the bank, for example, only if they were Freemasons.
Yeah, that's right. And it's like that Catholic, Protestant, Jewish dilemma. They revel in that. That is what Arius Piso wanted to create. And it's continuing right into this very day. The terror is occurring in every station across the world. Yeah, and all of it is just the same team of plants that are paid for by Donald and the powers that be. And Donald's body doubles are getting more and more like the real Donald. He got on the bus at a place called Melrose yesterday, and I refused to speak to him because that same body double talked to me openly in Berwick about 3 months ago. Yeah, and that is why I believe that those body doubles are residing in the poshest hotels in the countries, and they just pop out, and then they get their expenses paid by the New World Order. It's a lovely way to make a living.
It sounds like it, but it sounds so incredible and so unbelievable, George, that there are body doubles all over the world.
Watch the Grimm Brothers movie. It's the template for globalism, and they want you to pay or to pretend that the local region are engaging those Star Wars actors to solve the biggest problems in the world. What they're actually doing is creating them, and concepts like Brexit, which we've explained is also the religious joke that Jesus never lived. That's the braying Italian donkey. Right then, let's go down to the next picture.
I must tell people that have missed your previous interviews to check out www.outofthebagradio.weebly.com and put George Lees into the Google search, and you'll find all the earlier interviews, because he mentions Brexit in detail in earlier ones. There you go.
Yeah, and do you know what the the Christian name of the first German king was?
No, go on.
That's Ludwig. And that becomes the massive conspiracies. And what they do is everybody in the borders will remember Ludwig Kennedy and his wife, who was a ballet dancer. They lived in the Kelso region, and all of them became celebrities. They are the relatives of the first German kings. And that is the launch of several prostitutes into current day newsmongering, and that is Dorothea Jordan, and that becomes Jordan at Man United. All of them are German concubines. All of them are Protestants, because the Catholics, were destined to be beheaded. And that is the Masonic Lodge. And that is their idea of how to become a Master Mason. And I've told you before about the man who was an expert in mathematics, Isaac Newton. He had the right to behead people if he thought they were counterfeiting his coins at the Bank of England.
And did he do it? Did he?
Yes, absolutely. That's why he's a Chief Master Mason, and that is why Basil Switzer is still drinking in the hotels that I'm having to pay £60 a night to live in. And you know what 60 is in the Piso Bible numerical code?
Sorry, go on.
Arius Calpurnius Piso.
Right.
2,000 years ago, and that is still the meaning of life for the people that are leading the revolutions in the White House. That is Pompey, Mike Pompey. That is, who's the woman that led the strike? She's got the word Piso in it. Nancy Pelosi. All of them rule the world because they still adhere, like the police and the Masons, to the rules that Arius Calpurnius Piso wrote for them 2,000 years ago.
Nice.
Mike Pompey in the White House and Nancy Pelosi. And there are the Rothschilds, international banking and fiat currency, diverting the post. Everything is owned by them. So the postal service was launched by a company called Turn and Taxis in the Alps, and that is diverting the post to take profits for shareholders, monarchs and CEOs. Emperor Maximilian spawned the word U-turn and take a taxi ride to deliver, but first open private and secret mail. That's the snitching on every communication between the people that can read and write. And remember, right up to 1914, that was only the aristocracy or the king. Prince Karl Anselm became Postmaster General Limited. Biggest customer was Mayor Rothschild. First past the breaking news slander post makes a fortune. Close parallels to confession in the Catholic Church. Can you remember how tense you used to be if you've been naughty or late for school or something like that? Vatican wealth. Latin incomprehensible only to educated elites. That is the mass. What was it that you used to sing at the beginning of every mass? Agnus Dei, Pretoria Peccata Mundi, and that is an icon for Arius Peccat, Arius Calpurnius Piso, and all the cat stories and the comedies, they are published in Bertie Wooster's stories. Phobias for the cats, and that is now the icon and the knickers for all of the world's fascist women. Leopold of Austria. Okay, so Emperor Maximilian spawned the word U-turn and to take a taxi ride to deliver the first open private and secret mail. Prince Karl Anselm became Postmaster General Limited. Biggest customer, Mayor Rothschild. First past the breaking news slander post makes a fortune. close parallels to confession in the Catholic Church, Vatican wealth, so they are still under the possibly dead replacement of Pope Francis by Jonathan Price. Yeah, Vatican wealth, they are the biggest landowners on the world, and that's in Wikipedia, so you've got to believe it. Latin incomprehensible only to educated elites. So there's the launch of touring and taxis. And have you heard of yellow cabs in America?
Of course, yeah.
So that is touring and taxis once it gets across to the land of the free, in inverted commas.
And the post office around the world, like Tom Post in Ireland or Postal Service in England, it's one of the most incredible organisations on the planet, isn't it?
Absolutely, and even the penny black was worth a fortune when I was a stamp collector. Yeah, everything that you're able to keep and organise, unless you're a pauper and sleeping on the streets, it's all part of that massive pretense that we are intelligent and intellectual people. But what they're interested in is robbing you blind. There is Nathan Rothschild. I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England to rule the empire on which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply. And he's not even signed it like he would on a letter. It's just in block capitals, Nathan Rothschild.
Right.
Yeah. And
so he's using the fiction fraud. He's using what he then goes on to use.
So that's the likes of the one that is the equivalent of that now is the UKIP plant. I forget, Farage. Yeah, he's extremely confident. He knows nothing, but he pretends he's got the power to achieve everything. And that is the concept that you've got a United Kingdom Independence Party so that no one can go it alone. If you or me went into the Parliament building as MPs, it would create havoc. Yeah, but that's why
what we need, isn't it?
That's why they launch only the Muppet Show, and all of that is the same story as Gulliver's Travels and the giant on the beach. And that becomes the religions that the giants are the gods that need to be punished for punishing us for these mass murders, which are global conflicts. So long lists of lodges, crimes and conflicts here. Falling Masonry, info.index.html. Some are too big to reveal. That's crimes and conflicts. Falling Masonry, info, Masonic notables, secretive police, politicians and business media leaders to the City of London. Last three entries on the lists: Lloyd's Bank, Lodge Lombard, that's the Lombardy Street for the, that is on Canary Wharf. You remember the killings on Canary Wharf?
Yeah.
All of that tied into the terror. So the lodges plan it. HSBC Holden Lodge 2946, London Stock Exchange Verity Lodge 2739. To this day, no Englishman has ever worked for N.M. Rothschilds and Sons at St Swithin Lanes unless first proving his ability to keep secrets by joining the English Freemasonry. And the last time I asked them, how much is the subscription, they said it's 250 to 280 quid a year, so that we can become the liars and the cheaters that steal the world's freedom. And they've done it now. It's the whole of global politics is the Muppet Show, and there is the HSBC and Canary Wharf where the terrorists were killed because they missed the bus out of Birmingham and they had to be killed by the current head of the Metropolitan Police who trained at the Dragon School. Can you remember her name?
No, I can't.
Think of Prince Harry's lovers.
So, Merkel.
Cressida Dick went to the Dragon School and committed the murders, in Canary Wharf, of the bombers that missed the train. So they had to do all of the dirty themselves. She's head of the Metropolitan Police, and Cressida Bono was the lover of Prince Harry at that time, when they were trying to cover it up. And they're the chief master masons that are second in command to Rothschild. That's Prince Harry and his brothers.
Right, so I haven't really been following Prince Harry's love life, I suppose.
Oh, it's one of the most interesting things in world history. We should do a video all on that, just on its own, and we can show all of the people naked, because that's what Rupert Murdoch uses to get the impact up, the depth of the vaults and the human condition. Alias Geneva Convention in Paris on November 20th, 1815. Oh yeah, we've done that one at the top. So there are the meetings of the popes and the Nazis, in Germany, and that is Archbishop, that is the grinding the bones to flour, that is Archbishop Müller in Berlin. Trading with the Enemy, Charles Hyman, an expose of the Nazi American money spike, 1933 to I think that's 1947. And remember that is the period when the Bushes and the Worcesters were taking the Quislings all around the world, and that includes Rothschild's best mates. Can you guess who they are in an Irish context? Still on their boards today, and we've talked about the castle that he used to live in. In Ulster, the Duke of Wellington is the trading with the enemy right through those diasporas. And that's why Hannah Mary's residual companies, after the pressure I've put on her, are still named Writ. That's the writs that the polis send you as slaves to the monarchs. And there is the Bank of International Settlements, shining like a Dalek under God's sun, and it's in Basel, in Switzerland, where I used to work for Siwagaigi.
And it is incredible that the Vatican City as well have the Swiss Guard looking after.
That's right. So they went to the revolution in Paris to commit the massacres and the beheadings. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
It's all factual, and they're quite proud of it, really. Chancellors, bankers, and war booty. As all banks in London, the Midland Bank has its own Masonic lodge. Did you know that?
Well, I can believe it.
Let me repeat that. As all banks in London, the Midland Bank has its own Masonic lodge. The Holden Lodge, number 2946. The Speaker of the Podium of Midland's January 1924 stockholders meeting was Freemason. Do you understand why John Patterson keeps talking about this guy now? Yeah? So the guy's name is Reginald McKenna. Can you remember Patterson trying to divert you in almost every discussion into the McKennas, because that is another lineage, and they used to be the assistants in Professor Jones's regime when I was working at Imperial College London, where the Queen has her babies. Sorry, her bastards. Reginald McKenna, Midland's chairman of the board.
So he's head of that Freemasons Lodge,
basically. Holden Lodge number 294. Can you hear the wind howling? So that is McKenna that Patterson kept introducing into the stories. And when I started taking pictures of extra large fish being caught on the Tweed, they started telling me that the man who caught them was called McKenna, and that is how the press cover up the sins of the Masons, because all of them pay £280 a year to steal their country like that. Reginald McKenna, Midland's chairman of the board and past Chancellor of the Exchequer of England. He's the Chancellor's equivalent. McKenna, remember the name, and ask John Patterson why it means so much to him. From 1915 to...
Have you asked on why it means so much?
No, I forgot about it. This was done on my website nearly a decade ago. First Baron Montague Norman, DSO PC, I don't know what that stands for, 6th September 1871 to 4th February 1950. That's Baron Montague. Remember all the stories about the Montanus conspiracies and all of those aristocratic and BBC news reading families that share the word Montanus, Montague, and that is the mountain from the molehill that is Christianity for William and Mary. And that's why they tripped on the molehill and died within 2 weeks. You don't know that one already? I must have told you that one.
Yeah, I don't think you did.
So William of Orange was riding his horse, I forget which region of England it was, just after the conquering, and the discussion of the Act of Union or whatever it was called. His horse tripped on a molehill, and within a fortnight he was dead. Yeah.
Nice.
First Baron Montague Norman, September 1871 to February 1950, was an English banker best known for his role as the Governor of the Bank of England from 1920 to 1944. Yeah, right through the conflict, with all of them planning how to maximise the elite people's profits as they bury the ordinary people en masse as ashes. Service in Basel, where the Bank of International Settlements is, across open borders, yet because the Swiss have neutrality so that they can carry the gold bricks anywhere across the world, and that brings in the names Fort Knox, yeah, and the American Freemasons, and there are the war dead's crosses, yeah, and that is a pyramidal set of war dead crosses, and there are the poppies for Poppaea of ancient Rome, and there is the ancestors of Queen Poppo of Grapfield, Queen Elizabeth II, which is why she will no longer lay the poppy wreaths. The stock market crash of 1929 and the Great Depression, in inverted commas, if you're a Rothschild. The US Brotherhood, New York, writes, at the hearings evidence was disclosed that in 1927 the Federal Reserve Board, which is still an official secret, and heads of the European central banks had planned at a secret luncheon a major stock market crash. Does that sound familiar to you, Sean?
Indeed it does.
What year was it that we had it most recently? 1980 something?
Yeah,
81. Yeah, and in America they call it a reset because they do it again and again and again. However, the majority of congressmen were Masons, 69% of the House and 63% of the Senate. So they've got a majority for 280 quid a year each. So no action was taken against the Fed. That's the Federal Reserve Bank. Yeah, and all of those people that are also named Nancy. What was her name? She took over from Bernanke, and she's now a massively decrepit pensioner, but she's still on the take like all of the rest of them. Nancy, I can't remember her name, but that is Bernanke, was one of the big leaders, and they appear gloating on TV interviews, proclaiming that they are on the Federal Reserve Board, but they're not allowed to tell you who their colleagues are.
Crazy.
Yeah, well, it's not crazy. It's the Rothschild family policy, and if you dissent, you're dead.
Yeah.
Mellon created a monstrous bubble. That is the Bank Mellon, and that is all the underworld conspiracies, that all of them are in the Lord of the Rings stories, and all of the characters in that and Harry Potter are covers for the world-owning bloodlines. And what did you say Hedwig meant?
It was the pet, the owl.
Right. So if you look up the newsreader in the White House, he has owl-like eyes, and he has the word Piso in his name. He's it might come back to me before the end, but I think I mentioned it in the last video that you published just a few days ago.
Right.
Yeah,
I think it did. Yeah, we were talking about.
Yeah, they would reap enormous profits as the Dow Jones plunged. Yeah, it's not an accident. They call it a crash, but they do it again and again and again. And in global warfare, that is the bankrupting of every nation on both sides, so that people like him can put it in their pockets.
Basically, they're depopulating the planet through wars, etc., and making an absolute killing in other ways financially.
Well, I believe it's too soft now. You know, the world has a conscience, because unlike the elites that could read and write then, yeah, it's now the whole world has a conscience. And when you can do that, and you can actually walk up to someone and show him that you have a petition that has been signed to witness the fact that Dr. Ian Fingland was prepared to murder you, yeah, then they have empathy with you as the victim. Yeah, and there's no cash in that. It's just the silencing of a storyteller.
Right.
Yeah. Mellon created a monstrous bubble. That's the Mellon Bank. And for my feudal landlords, that is the name of the the fabulous singer that is Dame Nellie Melba. And all of it means yellow, which is why the Rothschilds are associated with the colour yellow. And Coldplay sing it. It was all yellow.
Yeah, Jonathan Mellon.
Yeah. They would reap enormous profits as the Dow Jones plunged. Mellon's bank was the first to follow Warburg's advice. You get the importance of Mrs. Simpson. Warburg. She was Warfield, and she is the reason why Donald Trump is the cousin of Queen Victoria. Oh, that will have frozen us. Oh. Are you still there? So, sorry, I'm just having to reboot the computer because this is kind of sensational, and the Rothschilds do not like their publicity to be sensational when it's nasty. And there are the current leaders of our Houses of Parliament in various countries, and all of them are trained and mind controlled by Rothschild. That's the Hitler Rothschild family tree. Hello?
Hello, George.
Hiya. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So that was Mrs. Simpson being the cut.
You froze completely, so we missed a bit. And the last time you probably carried on talking, you see. The last time it stopped was when you were singing Mellow Yellow. You were singing Yellow by Coldplay, and I said Donovan did Mellow Yellow, and then it went off.
So I told then the story about Dame Nellie Melbourne. Had already told that.
Yeah, you told that, and that's why you were saying about Yellow. Yeah. Hang on, I'm just gonna press record now. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tie these two recordings together like I did last time. Okay. And welcome back to Out of the Bag, and we just had a little technical difficulty there, but I have now George Lees back with me, and we just had the story about Dame Melba, the singer, and I mentioned Donovan, and George mentioned Coldplay. So there we go. Back to you, George.
So I was reading from the story on my website that has not really been told since I wrote it, and that's why I'm so pleased to get this out of the way. So they would reap enormous profits, and what I was telling you after, just before it crashed, is that Warburg, who's one of the founders of the Federal Reserve in America, he came across to Jekyll Island. All of them planned it, and they planned it on the Christmas recess when only 3 parliamentarians were in the House. Yeah, and that's why they got a massive majority, and it was unanimous. Do you get it? 3 of hundreds create the unanimous decision. And what I was telling you about the Masons is, however, the majority of congressmen were Masons, 69% of the House and 63% of the Senate. So no action was taken against the Fed. Mellon created a monstrous bubble and burst it. That's the resets again and again to bankrupt the countries, and Warburg is one of the Germans who came across in secret to launch that on Jekyll Island, where the Statue of Liberty is there as a massive joke against the Rothschild crimes. Right then, and there is Oxford, where they launched what was the fabulous secret society. Remember that we've learned that only Freemasons were allowed to be a secret society, but there is a picture of Oxford's secret society that is the Ku Klux Klan.
Really?
Yeah, and all of them have got those pointy wizard-like headgears on, and no one can know who are the faces or the people underneath.
And this is from Oxford University in England.
Yeah, and that is the immune from bombing institution throughout the wars. Yeah, because they launch the Monty Python's teams and the prime ministers, and it's the same for the chancellors in the cities in Heidelberg and Göttingen. Göttingen means no God. Yeah. There is Hitler and Europe's gold, drugs, money laundering and offshore banking. Worst was yet to come. There's a picture of Mrs. Simpson. She was not Warburg, she was Warboys. Yeah, and that's Mrs. Warboys. She's the last witch to be killed or executed in Britain, and she is in the, what was the tortoise thingaby in the Great Victor Meldrew. Mrs. Warboys is in that because that is the maiden name of Mrs. Simpson.
Yeah.
Hitler, Roosevelt, Churchill, Mussolini and de Gaulle all in the gravy train, and there are the pictures of them shaking hands with the Queen of England's first cousin, Adolf Hitler. That's the Queen of England today. Basel Bank of International Settlements to be the centre for laundering of war booty. The BIS should be immune from seizure, closure or censure whether or not its owners were at war. Do you understand why Basel Switzer was chosen to be my assassin?
Well, sort of, but I mean, it could have been anyone, couldn't it?
No, it's the obfuscation for the location of the Bank of International Settlements in Basel by a chief master mason who's obligated to do what the Queen asks him, and his name is Basel Switzer.
Yeah, I know that, but I mean, does that mean to say that he had to be your assassin? I mean, have they asked him to knock you off?
That's why he and Dr. Fingland were given the orders to come to my house when I was capable of making videos like this to shut me the fuck up.
Right.
You get that? That's assassination.
I hope you're safe now, I tell you.
Assassination. No, I'm not. He's drinking in this pub. And that is the family's...
Are you living in fear because of it, George?
No, I'm stronger than them because I have the knowledge of how they are the treasonous sellers of our country in every war that takes the lives of all of the people that are not in the Masonic Lodge. Montague Norman, governor of the Bank of England and a rabid supporter of Hitler, had already made a paper transfer of the gold to Berlin for use on buying essential strategic materials towards a future war, reports Hyman, the chief master mason. Do you get that one?
With the name Hyman as well.
Yeah, that is Hyman Biff. Yeah, and the burying of the dissidents in the, what do you call it, the corner of the tower? That's the concrete. And that for Tony Blair is the Heidelberg cement joke. For the Masons, that is Hyman Biff. Beaverbrook and the Lion King leapt out of Canada. That is the war. There he is, a picture of Max Aitken, Lord Beaverbrook. He was the person that brought up young Bill Clinton because he's a bastard of Pamela Digby Churchill and Winston Churchill in 10 Downing Street.
Bill Clinton is.
Yeah, all of it we now know, and that is Greg Hallett's books and all of his beautiful pictures. Yeah, and that's why I was chucked out of Dundee by the Forbes family, who are actually a Windsor offshoot.
Right.
Beaverbrook and Lion King leapt out of Canada. So Beaverbrook was the profiteer for the Air Force, and his son was a squadron leader. And there is FDR, there is Winston Churchill, and it might even tell us who the others are at the bottom. But all of them are doing Sieg Heil signs, including the papacy in Munich. Right then, so trading with the enemy, and the amount of time that we put into the Tyson stories, you must remember it now. Debtor countries everywhere, obscenely wealthy leaders and private lenders, e.g. USA. From then on, 1934, the ease with which our US government could borrow and spend money became habit forming. That is the creation of a debt pool. I think you'll have heard of that. Deficit spending in USA, 1949, 45 was 1 billion. How much did I say that the Rothschilds were worth in 1815?
Oh my God, I can't remember. But
I think it was 7 to 9 billion. Yeah, 1969, Man on the Moon, the debt pool for that was 100 billion, and that is for telling the lie that they got to the moon. And guess which lodge that was? Scotland's lodge. Yeah, because all of them are treasonous. Yeah, and there is the End Carter admin 500 billion debt pool. I'm not sure what that is. By end of Reagan George Bush Sr., the debt pool has then become 4 trillion, mostly military spend to dismember the Soviet Union. You remember the Cold War and the threat that the Russians would get there first.
Yeah, it was all a scam, wasn't it?
And all of it is a premeditated debt pool, which is now why the councils cannot perform properly and the government has to take more and more loans from the banks. Guess what the interest rate is now? For the ordinary savers, the interest rate maximum is 1%. Even if you've got millions, yeah, for the government, they have to pay 6% to Rothschild and the families that have covered them since Waterloo. 6% is what it takes to run the country. And now all of the running of the country is funded by the taxpayers and ratepayers. It's really clever, which is why the young Rothschilds never get involved in politics anymore. When did you last see anything about the Rothschilds other than their not being able to attend their relatives' weddings? You do not see them in the social media anymore. Yeah, by the end of Reagan, George Bush Sr., the debt pool was 4 trillion. The monetary institutions below make the debt global, take the fee from all countries to exist, and tuck it away secretly. There is the World Bank in Switzerland also. There is the OECD, there is Miss Lagarde, who for a long time has been my Facebook friend as a mindless plant. She used to work for the bank Paribas, and everything that is French is treasonous. The IMF and the World Banks, hundreds rich, billions poor. Right then, we're nearly...
George, we've got about 8 minutes left for the hour, so I'm just letting you know.
So I'll secrets burnt or stolen. So there's the book burning. There is Prince Charles, who's on the board of Dalek, because that is the Bank of International Settlements that looks like a Dalek. Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, and when you see the corporates run by his advisor, Chamberlain, yeah, all of them are named the man after Arius Copernicus Piso 2,000 years ago, which is why Queenie is so scared that the gods have come back in the Star Wars war. And there is the burning of the books upon the lords, run by the hangman in the place where the something stock exchange, yeah, and all of the book burning. Did you know that the Boston, the day that Kennedy was shot, the library that contained all of the archive was burnt to the ground?
Oh, on the same day?
Yeah. Did you know that?
I didn't know that, no, George.
Yeah, Patterson knows it. So, that's the bottom of the thing. Let me now go on to my other software, and I'll get you the list of oligarchs that now rule the world. Have you...
Forbes list of the world's most powerful people.
Yeah, I think I've got it on OneNote now. So that is that every president that resigns becomes a billionaire foundation leader, and all of the families that I've been harassing this week are now... Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm listening.
So Susan Clatton, I made a video in 2015 on the Forbes rich list. Almost all of them are covers for richer families elsewhere on the globe.
Yeah.
So Susan Clatton is in the cosmetics industry, and they're actually a French family called... let me see if I can get the OneNote profile up. And have you heard of Pi Interest?
Pi Interest, no, remind me if I have.
When you're looking for things on the internet, you'll find that there's a Pi Interest page, and I've now signed up to it using several IDs.
Nice.
And there is the Betancourt. You remember we talked about Mike Myers?
Yes.
And the spy who shagged me, and the training of Merkel with a colleague called Myers. Oh no, sorry, what was the name of the... Austin was the Austin Myers cover.
Ours.
Yeah, so Betancourt is the Myers family, and they are a massive offshoot of that. And if you look at the bloodline tree, they go back to a man who was second in command to Adolf Hitler Rothschild, and his name is Goebbels.
Nice.
Yeah, and that is what I wanted to talk about, and that's why I sent you that list. I'm going to have to drag you off the top of my page.
That's okay. I've done the same for you to look at the list, historical top 10 rankings from 2009.
So there's the Pi Interest pages, and there's the Clatton tab. So she's been running a propaganda war. that she's been having affairs since I made the video on the world's richest people. Yeah, and the people that are on that, the friends that I have on Wikipedia, on Facebook, one of them is called, she's her husband was the MP for Blackpool. His name is Harold Ellison. She's just been pushed into this world to be a cover for Ellison on the Forbes rich list. He runs a company called Oracle. There's the tree for Quant, which is that Bettencourt family, and the Quants are the manufacturers of lipstick, Gerhard Rudel Helmut Front, and this is where we get the Goebbels connection. There is Magda Goebbels, 1901 to 1945. Harold Quant. Have you heard of lipstick made by them?
Well, I just heard of Mary Quant and the 60s fashion designer.
Yeah, that's right. So there's still three of them. One of them is male, two of them are male, and they run the BMW scams. Yeah, they're the richest people in the world, on the top half of the top 100 in the world, and they're massive billionaires, which is why she's launched the massive expansion of her love life into the stories that are told by the European storytellers that are called the BBC. Okay, and let me just show you the pie interest pages. So everybody that is in these families are actually descended from Arius Copernicus Piso, as you now understand, like Nancy Pelosi, and the reader that is the owl-like reader for the White House. He is so there's Kate Winslet. Her parents are Smith. There's nobody else on the family tree. I believe she will be in the Stalin bloodline, but I cannot justify that if we've only got 6 minutes left. There is Joni Mitchell. All of them are pi interest people, which means that they're descended from Piso.
Nice.
And they're ever so proud of it until you start putting their photos online. There is Jennifer Aniston. You've heard of her, I think.
I think so, yeah.
I don't think she's been divorced this week, but she's on Wikipedia. She's got 4 husbands. On the internet, to the genealogical secrets, like Jeannie, she had 4 husbands. On Wikipedia, she's only had 2, and one of them is the man. Have you seen the video clip with Vince Vaughn? He was her first husband, and they've made a movie called The Breakup with Telly Savalas, who was her godfather in it.
Oh, right, okay. It's a close family, isn't
I've asked you to watch it. If you've not watched it already, please this morning look up Jennifer Aniston, Vince Vaughn, The Breakup movie trailer, and she asks for a Telly Savalas. You now understand all of that. Guess what a Telly Savalas is for a hairdresser?
Go on, it's a cut of some description.
It's a vaginal shave.
Oh,
I've asked you to watch it before. In the culmination of my videos, those are the families that descend to Arius Piso. And
I'm looking at the historical top 10 rankings. Apart from world leaders, etc., there are also people who are, again, chair people of the Federal Reserve, etc.
Absolutely, yes. So Bernanke's on it, and those are the people that will not reveal the friends and colleagues on those banks that were corrupted, just like the one in Switzerland. And you have not been looking at the images of how Switzerland is allowed to be neutral. All of the directors on the committee of 30 get paid they go there 10 times a year, and that's 10 monthly visits a year, and they are the wealthiest people in the world. And if they go skiing in the Alps, they're in extreme danger because the gods know who they are, unlike all of the other people that are not allowed to know who runs the Fed. Yeah, and there is Julia Roberts. For some reason the gods do not like her, but she's on pi interest. And there are all of the listings for her. Sorry, let me see if I can get a photo for my audience.
Okay, sadly my audience won't see it.
And there is Tom Cruise. Yeah, he's the launch of the new Society of Jesus with some of the other American politicians, and all of his women are totally corrupted, and they're in that Christian cabal for 2,000 years. The one of his wives is the papal Pope Urban's lineage.
All right.
Yeah, can you remember any of his wives' names? They're absolutely famous Hollywood comedians too. Yeah, because that is the Society of Jesus. What was the Mitt Romney? All of them are on the take as billionaires from the ancient lineages that he's from. So his women are Pope Urban's women. Right. And I told you the same. The most attractive family in Hollywood history is Fonda, and they are a papal bloodline. And they're absolutely beautiful. And when I revealed that, she started reading the news for the BBC in England.
Okay, so what, Peter Fonda, Jane Fonda?
Yeah, absolute beauties. And all of that is the equivalent of the Fowler linkage to Kevin Spacey. And that is his real name is Fowler. They are the Fowlers that are the Fullers that are like the plumbers in Pompeii. And that job became quite easy after the mountain exploded.
Right. And come to the end of the hour, my friend. Do you want to go on longer, or do you need longer?
Yeah, I would love to get the pictures in that I carefully took yesterday. There is Debbie Harry, Blondie. Look up, when you look up Vince Vaughn and the naked Fanny, you understand the Fania joke.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, again and again and again. That is Arius Copernicus' nicknames. So look up Blondie, Debbie Harry, yeah, the Aryan Harry. Do you get it? And that's why Harry has become Meghan's son again this week.
Okay.
She's chosen Archie because my children are Harry, Archie, and Grant, and those are all the Aryan names. And if I'd known that when I was choosing the names of my children, I wouldn't have chosen the fascist ones that the royals still do. But look up Debbie Harry, Charlemagne, watch the video, and you will realise that all of them are descended from Charlemagne. Every one of the residual monarchies across the world are descended from Charlemagne, and he is the biggest serial killer in Christian history. He went in
I was a big Blondie fan when I was younger.
So was I. Everybody was. Everybody loved her because of her simplicity. But when you watch the movie on Charlemagne, it becomes really sinister. He went to the Vatican in Rome in 800 AD. That's just another of those Piso numbers. Yeah, all of it is just the laugh for 2,000 years that we are the people that stole the world by deceit and killing from the back room, and we're still in charge of the world like that today. So the White House reader is with the owl-like appearance. He is I keep forgetting it. Anyway, let's go down. So everybody that is on pi interest is directly descended from Piso, and Blondie is there. There is Queen Maxima of the Netherlands. She's a nice woman. She's come to see me twice in Dundee. And she used to work for Hitler's bank before she left Latin America and became the Queen of Nazi Netherlands. Sorry, you still there? Sean? Anyway, so there is, for my audience, there is Anne Sweeney, and she works for Walt Disney. And Adolf Hitler was a great fan of theirs. And I met a body double for her yesterday. She's charming. And that is the covers for the Sweeney family that are on the bloodlines for Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton and John of Gaunt of Lancashire. Yeah, co-chair, Disney Media Networks and president of Disney. So that now says to Sean from Ireland, your connection is too weak. Please try again later. My connection is too weak since I mentioned Maxima of the Netherlands and Hitler's bank. All of you saw what happened. Let's see if he's still there. No, Rupert is not going to let us go on with the discussion. And there's my internet device flickering out. Oh no, they've taken me off the internet. So, closing off at this end, we'll start again if I get back to Sean. Can you see how volatile it is? Before I close, I need to show you the list of the powers that be. Okay, so there is B-Arians. Okay, there is ZJINPIN, Xi Jinping, Forbes' most powerful person of 2018. Okay, Forbes' list of the most powerful people on the world. Poor Sean, I don't know if he will understand how his internet access. So there is Barack Obama, 2009.